Beloved, welcome in. I'm truly glad you're here right now. Take a breath and allow your heart to settle, because this message is not loud, rushed, or dramatic. It is gentle, intimate, and deeply personal. If this is your first time here, I invite you to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next message God releases. And before we go any further, I want you to engage your faith. Go into the comments and write, "I believe in God," or "God, I'm LISTNING. That simple act opens your spirit to receive. Now listen carefully. The angels say this final message from your soulmate is not meant to confuse you, test you, or pull you back into pain. It is meant to bring clarity, release, and truth. And yes, for many of you, it will make you cry, not tears of heartbreak, but tears of recognition. Tears that come when something finally makes sense after a long season of silence. This message does not come from chaos. It comes from reflection. It comes from someone who has reached the end of avoidance and the beginning of honesty. Your soulmate has arrived at a point where holding things in has become heavier than speaking the truth. And God wants you to hear this now, not later, because your heart is finally strong enough to receive it without breaking. There was a time when hearing this would have hurt you, a time when you might have misunderstood it or internalized it as rejection or failure, but you are not that person anymore. God has matured you, steadied you, and grounded you in truth. And because of that, this message will not destroy you, it will free you. The angels say this message carries three things: honesty, regret, and love. Not regret meant to reopen wounds, but regret that acknowledges growth. Love that does not demand anything from you, but simply tells the truth that was once hidden. Some of you have been sensing a heaviness lifting lately, even without knowing why. That is because closure does not always come through conversation. Sometimes it comes through spiritual release. Your soulmate has been thinking about you deeply, not with fantasy, but with clarity. And clarity often brings emotion. This final message is not necessarily the end of connection for everyone listening. For some, it is the end of confusion. For others, it is the end of waiting. And for some, it is the end of emotional attachment that no longer serves you. God knows which one applies to you. The angels say this message sounds something like this in the spirit: "I see now what I couldn't see then." That sentence alone carries weight, because it means growth happened, even if it happened too late for the past version of the relationship. You may feel tears welling up, because part of you always hoped they would understand, always hoped they would realize your value without you having to prove it. And now that realization has come, not because you waited endlessly, but because God allowed time to do its work. God wants you to know something important here. Their realization is not your responsibility. You did not fail because they were slow to see. You did not lack because they hesitated. Sometimes people only recognize treasure after distance teaches them its worth. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes that there is a time to speak and a time to be silent. This message comes at the right time, not to pull you backward, but to settle what was left unresolved in your heart. The angels say your soulmate wants you to know that you mattered more than they admitted, that your presence changed them more than they acknowledged, that walking away from you was not as easy as it appeared. And for many of you, hearing that truth, even spiritually, will unlock emotions you didn't realize were still there. You may cry because you finally feel seen, not pursued, not claimed, but seen. God is not sending this message to confuse your future. He is sending it to heal your past. Healing does not always come through reunion. Sometimes it comes through recognition. There were moments you questioned yourself, moments you wondered if you imagined the connection, moments you felt foolish for feeling so deeply, but God is gently reassuring you now: you were not wrong, you were early. The angels say this final message carries apology energy, not always spoken aloud but felt. An apology for the silence, for the hesitation, for not choosing courage when it mattered. And while that apology does not change the past, it validates your experience. You may feel tears because part of your heart finally feels released from the burden of what if. You no longer have to wonder if it meant something. It did. God wants you to hear this next part very clearly. This message is not asking you to go back. It is not asking you to wait longer. It is not asking you to reopen doors God has already closed. It is simply acknowledging truth. The angels say some soulmates come into our lives not to stay forever, but to awaken us, to teach us how deeply we can love, to show us what alignment feels like. And once that lesson is learned, God leads both people forward, sometimes together, sometimes apart. You may cry because you're grieving not the person, but the version of the future you once imagined. And that grief is valid. God does not rush grief, He redeems it. The Bible reminds us that God is close to the brokenhearted, not just those who are breaking now, but those who are finally letting themselves feel what they buried long ago. This final message also carries peace, peace that says, you did nothing wrong by loving, peace that says, you are free now, peace that says, you can move forward without carrying this weight. Some of you will feel a strange combination of sadness and relief. That is closure. Closure does not always feel joyful at first, but it always brings lightness afterward. The angels say this message will reach you in the way you need it most. For some, through this video. For others, through a dream. For others, through a sudden release of emotion without explanation. Trust that God knows how to deliver it gently. If this message is touching your heart right now, I want you to like this video. That simple act helps others who are silently carrying similar emotions find reassurance too. God is reminding you that your story is not ending. It is clarifying. What is ahead of you requires a heart that is free, not tied to unresolved emotion. This final message from your soulmate does not define your worth. It confirms it. It tells you that you are impactful, meaningful, and unforgettable in the way God intended. You may cry not because you are weak, but because you are healed enough to feel safely. Beloved, stay here with me. Let the tears come if they need to. God is not uncomfortable with your emotions. He created them. And right now, He is allowing something to soften in you that has been holding on for a long time. The angels say this final message from your soulmate carries a deep truth that was once too heavy for them to speak. Not because they didn't feel it, but because they were afraid of what it would require of them. Fear does that. It delays honesty. It silences courage. It convinces people to choose comfort over calling. Your soulmate has reached a place of awareness that only time and loss can bring. Awareness that you were not just someone they loved, but someone who reflected back parts of themselves they had not yet healed. Loving you required growth, and growth frightened them then. You may cry because you finally understand that their silence was never about your worth. It was about their readiness, and that distinction matters more than you realize. God wants you to hear this clearly now. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not asking for too much clarity or commitment. You are simply aligned with a depth they had not yet reached. The angels say your soulmate's heart carries gratitude toward you, gratitude for how you loved without manipulation, gratitude for how you stayed honest, gratitude for how you walked away with dignity instead of bitterness. Those things changed them. This message you are receiving now is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, sincere, and heavy with emotion. It sounds like, I wish I had been braver. And hearing that may break something open in you, not because you want them back, but because you finally feel validated. God is reminding you that validation does not have to come in real time to be real. Sometimes it comes later, when both hearts are finally capable of seeing clearly. You may feel tears because part of you always carried a question, did I matter? And heaven is answering that now, yes, you mattered deeply. The angels say this message also carries release. Release from self-blame. Release from wondering what you could have done differently. Release from carrying responsibility that was never yours. God never intended for you to carry someone else's fear as your burden. He allowed you to walk away so you would not shrink trying to make someone else feel safe. Some of you listening have been strong for a long time, strong in silence, strong in prayer, strong in restraint, and now God is allowing you to feel again without fear of falling apart. You may cry because this message closes a chapter you never got to close properly, words you never heard, are finally being acknowledged in the spirit, and that acknowledgement brings peace. The angels say your soulmate's final message is not meant to reopen doors. It is meant to close wounds. God knows that unresolved emotional loops can follow us into new seasons if they are not addressed. That is why He is addressing this now, before you move forward, before new love, new purpose, or new peace fully settles in. You are not losing anything by receiving this message. You are gaining clarity. There is something deeply freeing about knowing the truth without needing to act on it, knowing without chasing, knowing without waiting, knowing without reopening what God has already healed. The angels say this message carries an unspoken apology, not always in words, but in energy, an apology for not choosing courage sooner, an apology for leaving you with questions, an apology for not meeting you where you were. And while that apology does not change the past, it softens the memory. You may cry because your heart finally feels seen without having to explain itself, seen without having to defend how deeply you felt, seen without being told you were imagining things. God wants you to know that He saw everything all along. He saw the love you gave. He saw the restraint you practiced. He saw the nights you cried quietly. He saw the strength it took to let go. And He is proud of you. The angels say some of you will feel a physical release in your body after this message, a lightness, a deep exhale, a sense of peace you didn't know you were missing. That is your nervous system letting go of a story it no longer needs to carry. This final message from your soulmate is not asking for forgiveness. It is acknowledging truth, and that truth is enough. God is reminding you that closure does not always require conversation. Sometimes it requires understanding, and understanding has arrived. You may also feel gratitude, gratitude that you loved deeply, gratitude that you were capable of that depth, gratitude that you did not harden your heart despite the pain. Love does not fail just because it does not last forever. Some love fulfills its purpose by transforming us, not by staying. The angels say your soulmate's message carries respect. Respect for who you are now, respect for the strength you carry, respect for the life you are building. They see now that losing you was not something to celebrate, it was something that shaped them. God wants you to hear this next part carefully. You do not need to respond to this message, not in the natural, not in the spirit. It has already done its work. Your task now is not to look back, but to move forward lighter. Some of you have been holding space in your heart without realizing it, space reserved for an answer, space reserved for acknowledgement. That space is now free. And God fills empty spaces quickly. The angels say this final message is making room for something new, not a replacement, but an alignment. What comes next will not feel unfinished. It will not feel uncertain. It will not leave you guessing. But before that arrives, God wanted to make sure you were not carrying unresolved grief disguised as strength. You may cry because you realize you were stronger than you thought, strong enough to walk away, strong enough to love honestly, strong enough to heal. God is very close to you right now, closer than you feel, closer than you realize. He is comforting the parts of you that never asked for comfort out loud. If your heart feels heavy but peaceful at the same time, that is healing. Healing does not always feel joyful at first. It feels honest. The angels say this message is also preparing you for the kind of love that does not leave questions behind. Love that chooses clarity, love that chooses courage, love that meets you where you are. God will not bring someone new into your life while you are still emotionally tied to unresolved pain. That is why this is happening now. If you feel moved right now, take a moment and like this video. That simple act helps others who are quietly carrying similar emotions find reassurance. Beloved, stay here with me. Let the tears come if they need to. God is not uncomfortable with your emotions. He created them. And right now, He is allowing something to soften in you that has been holding on for a long time. The angels say this final message from your soulmate carries a deep truth that was once too heavy for them to speak. Not because they didn't feel it, but because they were afraid of what it would require of them. Fear does that. It delays honesty, it silences courage, it convinces people to choose comfort over calling. Your soulmate has reached a place of awareness that only time and loss can bring. Awareness that you were not just someone they loved, but someone who reflected back parts of themselves they had not yet healed. Loving you required growth, and growth frightened them then. You may cry because you finally understand that their silence was never about your worth. It was about their readiness, and that distinction matters more than you realize. God wants you to hear this clearly now. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not asking for too much clarity or commitment. You are simply aligned with a depth they had not yet reached. The angels say your soulmate's heart carries gratitude toward you, gratitude for how you loved without manipulation, gratitude for how you stayed honest, gratitude for how you walked away with dignity instead of bitterness. Those things changed them. This message you are receiving now is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, sincere, and heavy with emotion. It sounds like, "I wish I had been braver," and hearing that may break something open in you, not because you want them back, but because you finally feel validated. God is reminding you that validation does not have to come in real time to be real. Sometimes it comes later, when both hearts are finally capable of seeing clearly. You may feel tears because part of you always carried a question: did I matter? And heaven is answering that now. Yes, you mattered deeply. The angels say this message also carries release. Release from self-blame. Release from wondering what you could have done differently. Release from carrying responsibility that was never yours. God never intended for you to carry someone else's fear as your burden. He allowed you to walk away so you would not shrink trying to make someone else feel safe. Some of you listening have been strong for a long time, strong in silence, strong in prayer, strong in restraint, and now God is allowing you to feel again without fear of falling apart. You may cry because this message closes a chapter you never got to close properly. Words you never heard are finally being acknowledged in the Spirit, and that acknowledgement brings peace. The angels say your soulmate's final message is not meant to reopen doors. It is meant to close wounds. God knows that unresolved emotional loops can follow us into new seasons if they are not addressed. That is why He is addressing this now, before you move forward, before new love, new purpose, or new peace fully settles in. You are not losing anything by receiving this message. You are gaining clarity. There is something deeply freeing about knowing the truth without needing to act on it, knowing without chasing, knowing without waiting, knowing without reopening what God has already healed. The angels say this message carries an unspoken apology, not always in words, but in energy, an apology for not choosing courage sooner, an apology for leaving you with questions, an apology for not meeting you where you were. And while that apology does not change the past, it softens the memory. You may cry because your heart finally feels seen without having to explain itself, seen without having to defend how deeply you felt, seen without being told you were imagining things. God wants you to know that He saw everything all along. He saw the love you gave. He saw the restraint you practiced. He saw the nights you cried quietly. He saw the strength it took to let go. And He is proud of you. The angels say some of you will feel a physical release in your body after this message, a lightness, a deep exhale, a sense of peace you didn't know you were missing. That is your nervous system letting go of a story it no longer needs to carry. This final message from your soulmate is not asking for forgiveness. It is acknowledging truth, and that truth is enough. God is reminding you that closure does not always require conversation. Sometimes it requires understanding, and understanding has arrived. You may also feel gratitude, gratitude that you loved deeply, gratitude that you were capable of that depth, gratitude that you did not harden your heart despite the pain. Love does not fail just because it does not last forever. Some love fulfills its purpose by transforming us, not by staying. The angels say your soulmate's message carries respect. Respect for who you are now, respect for the strength you carry, respect for the life you are building. They see now that losing you was not something to celebrate, it was something that shaped them. God wants you to hear this next part carefully. You do not need to respond to this message, not in the natural, not in the spirit. It has already done its work. Your task now is not to look back, but to move forward lighter. Some of you have been holding space in your heart without realizing it, space reserved for an answer, space reserved for acknowledgement. That space is now free. And God fills empty spaces quickly. The angels say this final message is making room for something new, not a replacement, but an alignment. What comes next will not feel unfinished. It will not feel uncertain. It will not leave you guessing. But before that arrives, God wanted to make sure you were not carrying unresolved grief disguised as strength. You may cry because you realize you were stronger than you thought, strong enough to walk away, strong enough to love honestly, strong enough to heal. God is very close to you right now, closer than you feel, closer than you realize. He is comforting the parts of you that never asked for comfort out loud. If your heart feels heavy but peaceful at the same time, that is healing. Healing does not always feel joyful at first. It feels honest. The angels say this message is also preparing you for the kind of love that does not leave questions behind. Love that chooses clarity, love that chooses courage, love that meets you where you are. God will not bring someone new into your life while you are still emotionally tied to unresolved pain. That is why this is happening now. If you feel moved right now, take a moment and like this video. That simple act helps others who are quietly carrying similar emotions find reassurance. Beloved, stay present. This moment is holy, even in its quietness. God is doing something tender right now. Something that doesn't need to be rushed or explained. He is allowing truth to settle gently, not crash loudly, and that gentleness is intentional because your heart has carried enough weight already. The angels say this final message from your soulmate is not meant to pull you backward emotionally. It is meant to untangle something that has been knotted inside you for a long time. Sometimes we move forward physically, but emotionally we remain paused, waiting for a sentence we never heard, an acknowledgement that never came. God is answering that pause now. You may notice that the tears feel different this time, not sharp, not overwhelming. They come slowly, almost softly. That is because these are not tears of loss alone. They are tears of understanding, understanding that love can be real even when it doesn't last, understanding that someone can care deeply and still not be ready, understanding that timing shapes outcomes more than feelings ever could. The angels say your soulmate's heart carries a quiet confession, not spoken out loud, but spoken in the spirit. A confession that says, I knew what you were to me, but I was afraid of what loving you would demand of me. That truth alone explains more than years of silence ever could. God wants you to hear this carefully. Their fear was not greater than your value. It was simply louder than their courage at the time. And fear is never a measure of someone else's worth. You may cry because you finally realize you did not fail this connection. You did not sabotage it. You did not love incorrectly. You loved honestly. And honesty is never a mistake. The angels say this message carries humility, a recognition that they could not meet you where you were then. And humility, even when it comes late, has power to heal. There is a part of you that may want to revisit memories right now, to replay moments, to reinterpret conversations. That is natural, but God invites you not to linger there too long. Reflection is meant to bring clarity, not reattachment. This message is not reopening a wound, it is closing it properly. God has been preparing you for a season where you no longer question your intuition, where you no longer second-guess your emotional truth, where you trust that what you felt was real, even if it wasn't sustained. The angels say your soulmate's final message includes gratitude. Gratitude for the way you loved without control. Gratitude for the safety you offered. Gratitude for the way your presence revealed parts of them they had been avoiding. And gratitude often arrives after loss teaches its lesson. You may cry because you see now that love does not always fail because it was wrong. Sometimes it ends because it did its work. God wants you to understand that some connections are catalysts. They awaken us, they prepare us, they stretch our capacity to feel, to trust, to hope. And once that awakening happens, God leads us forward. This final message is a spiritual acknowledgement of that awakening. There may be a part of you that feels lighter already, a subtle release, a sense that something has shifted inside your chest. That is your heart letting go of unanswered questions. The angels say you are not losing anything by releasing this. You are gaining peace. God is reminding you that clarity is a gift, even when it arrives late, even when it comes without conversation, even when it comes quietly through prayer, dreams, or moments like this. Some of you may feel a strange compassion toward your soulmate now, not longing, not attachment, but compassion. That is a sign that healing has reached a mature stage. Compassion does not mean returning, it means understanding without resentment. You may cry because resentment is dissolving, and resentment takes up a lot of space in the heart. The angels say this message also affirms something important. You are capable of deep love. You are capable of emotional honesty. You are capable of connection that changes lives. That is not something to regret. That is something to honor. God does not regret the love you gave. He used it. He multiplied it. He allowed it to shape you into someone more aware, more discerning, more grounded. You are not starting over empty-handed. You are moving forward equipped. This final message from your soulmate is not meant to define your future. It is meant to free it. You may notice that the idea of the future feels less heavy now, less uncertain, less tied to the past. That is because God has removed an emotional weight you were no longer meant to carry. The angels say there is no urgency attached to what comes next, no pressure, no countdown. God is not rushing you into anything. He is simply clearing space. Clearing space for peace. Clearing space for joy. Clearing space for love that chooses clarity from the beginning. You may cry because you realize you no longer need answers from the past to move forward. You have received what you needed. God wants you to know that He is very close to you right now, not watching from a distance, not waiting for you to be strong. He is sitting with you in this moment of release. The angels say this message was allowed now because you are ready, ready to hear without breaking, ready to release without clinging, ready to honor the past without living in it. Some of you listening may feel sleepy, calm, or emotionally quiet after this. That is your nervous system settling. That is your spirit resting. God is restoring rest to your heart. You may also feel a renewed sense of self-respect, a recognition that you honored yourself by walking away when clarity was absent. That is strength. The angels say your soulmate's final message includes this unspoken truth: you deserved more than I could give then. And hearing that, even spiritually, is powerful. It reminds you that you were not asking for too much. You were asking the right person at the wrong time. And God never wastes timing. You may cry because you finally forgive yourself for staying as long as you did, for hopping as long as you did, for loving as deeply as you did. There is nothing to be ashamed of there. Love is never shameful. The angels say this message is also teaching you something important for the future, that when love comes again, it will not feel uncertain for long. It will not leave you questioning your place. It will not require you to interpret silence. God has been preparing you for a love that speaks clearly, chooses openly, and stays present. But before that love arrives, God wanted to ensure that your heart was not still tethered to an unfinished story. That story is now complete. Not with reunion, not with regret, but with understanding. If your tears are slowing, if your breathing feels deeper, if your chest feels lighter, that is confirmation. Something has been released. You do not need to rush away from this moment. Sit with it. Let it pass through you fully. God is not asking you to suppress emotion. He is asking you to let it move through you so it doesn't stay trapped. The angels say you are safe now, safe to feel, safe to remember, safe to let go. And as you remain here, know this: you are not alone in this healing. God is with you. He has been with you every step of the way, and He will continue to guide you forward, lighter than before. Stay here just a little longer. Let God finish what He is doing in your heart. Beloved, remain still in this space. There is no rush to move away from what God is doing right now. Healing does not need to be hurried, it needs to be honored, and God is honoring your heart in this moment. The angels say there is one more layer of truth being revealed, and it is gentle but profound. This final message from your soulmate is not only about them recognizing you, it is also about you recognizing yourself, recognizing how deeply you can love, how faithfully you can wait, and how bravely you can let go when God asks you to. You may be realizing now that the pain you carried was never proof of weakness, it was evidence of depth. Shallow hearts do not ache this way, only hearts that love sincerely feel lost deeply, and God does not shame that depth, He refines it. The angels say your soulmate's message carries a quiet surrender, a surrender that says, I release you into the life you deserve. That surrender may not be spoken aloud, but it is happening, and when release happens on both sides, peace follows. You might feel an unexpected calm spreading through you, a calm that feels different from numbness. Numbness disconnects. This calm reconnects you to yourself, it reconnects you to God, it allows you to breathe without heaviness. God wants you to know that this moment is not about closure alone. It is about restoration, restoration of your trust in yourself, restoration of your confidence in your discernment, restoration of your belief that love does not always betray. The angels say there was a time you questioned your intuition because the outcome did not match your hope. But intuition is not proven by outcomes, it is proven by alignment, and you were aligned. The timing simply did not match the readiness. You may cry because you are forgiving yourself for doubting your inner knowing, for thinking you were wrong instead of recognizing that you were early. God has been teaching you that being early is not a flaw. It means you are sensitive to truth before others catch up to it. The angels say your soulmate's final message also carries admiration. Admiration for how you carried yourself with grace, for how you did not turn bitter, for how you chose growth over resentment. Those choices left an imprint. Some of you may feel a sense of quiet pride in yourself right now, not arrogance, not ego, but respect. Respect for the version of you that survived, healed, and remained open to God. God is pleased with that version of you. There is also something important God wants to say to the part of you that still feels tender. You do not have to explain your healing to anyone. You do not have to justify your boundaries. You do not have to minimize your emotions to make others comfortable. Healing does not require permission. The angels say this final message from your soulmate has done its work. It has acknowledged what was real. It has released what was unfinished. And now it is gently stepping aside so you can move forward unburdened. You may notice that thoughts about them feel different now. Less charged, less heavy, less consuming. That does not mean they never mattered. It means they no longer own space they are not meant to occupy. God is teaching you how to honor memories without living in them. The angels say your heart is becoming lighter because it is no longer carrying questions. Questions create tension, answers bring peace, and even spiritual answers can be enough. You are not required to hear words from them in the natural world. God has already given you what you needed to hear in the spiritual realm. There may be moments in the coming days when emotion resurfaces briefly. That is normal. Healing is not a straight line, but each wave will be softer. Each memory will hold less weight. God is not reopening wounds. He is teaching your heart how to release them fully. You may also find that your prayers change after this, less asking why and more asking where to next. That shift is significant. It means you are no longer stuck in the past. You are oriented toward the future. The angels say your future does not require you to carry old grief as proof of love. Love does not demand suffering as evidence of sincerity. God has something ahead of you that feels clearer, steadier, and more emotionally safe. But before that can fully arrive, your heart needed to exhale. That exhale is happening now. You may cry because you realize how long you held your breath emotionally, how long you stayed strong without release, how long you carried unanswered questions quietly. God is allowing you to rest from that now. The angels say this final message is also a blessing in disguise. It is closing a door gently instead of letting it slam unexpectedly later. God closes doors with compassion. You are being prepared for a season where love does not confuse you, where affection does not come with anxiety, where connection does not require constant interpretation. That season requires a heart that is free, and freedom is arriving. God is reminding you that you are not broken because this affected you deeply. You are human, and humans were created to love. The angels say your capacity to love deeply will be honored in the future. It will not be exploited. It will not be taken for granted. God does not waste that gift. You may feel gratitude toward God rising now, gratitude for carrying you through this, gratitude for not letting bitterness take root, gratitude for preserving your heart. Let that gratitude flow. It is part of healing. There is also a quiet confidence returning to you, confidence that you can trust God with your heart again, confidence that you can love without losing yourself, confidence that you will recognize clarity when it appears. The angels say you are not behind in life. You are not late to love. You are exactly where you need to be for what God is doing next. You may not know what that next thing looks like yet. That's okay. Peace does not require a preview. God wants you to rest in this truth now. Nothing you loved was wasted. Nothing you felt was foolish. Nothing you endured was pointless. Everything served a purpose. As you sit with this moment, allow your breathing to deepen. Allow your shoulders to relax. Allow your heart to soften without fear. You are safe now. The angels say this final message has accomplished what it was meant to do. It has brought clarity, it has brought release, and it has brought you back to yourself. You do not need to hold on anymore. God is holding you. Beloved, stay with me just a little longer. There is no rush to move on from this space. God is still doing something quiet and meaningful within you, and sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones where nothing dramatic happens on the outside, but everything shifts on the inside. The angels say this final message has softened a place in your heart that was once guarded not by walls, but by exhaustion. You weren't closed because you lacked faith. You were tired of carrying emotions that had nowhere to land. And now, God has given those emotions a place to rest. You may be noticing that your thoughts are slowing down, that the constant replaying of memories, questions, and what-ifs is losing its grip. That is not forgetfulness. That is peace beginning to take root. Peace does not erase memory. It simply removes its power to wound you. God wants you to understand something very important here. You did not need this final message in order to be whole. You were already whole in Him. But this message came as an act of mercy to free you from carrying unresolved weight into your next season. The angels say there is a difference between remembering and reliving. You are being moved from reliving into remembering. Remembering without pain. Remembering without longing. Remembering without regret. That transition is sacred. You may feel moments of stillness now where you once felt emotional noise. That stillness may feel unfamiliar, even strange. When you have lived with emotional tension for a long time, peace can feel quiet in a way that takes getting used to. Let yourself get used to it. God is not leaving you empty. He is making room. Room for clarity. Room for joy. Room for love that does not confuse you. The angels say that after this release, you will notice your intuition becoming sharper, not duller. Healing does not numb you, it refines you. You will sense more clearly what aligns with your spirit and what does not. You may also find yourself less interested in revisiting the past, not because it didn't matter, but because it no longer defines you. The past becomes a chapter, not the whole story. God is reminding you that you are allowed to close chapters without rewriting them. You do not need to justify why something ended. You do not need to make sense of every detail. Some understanding comes from within, not from explanation. The angels say your soulmate's final message was not meant to keep a connection alive. It was meant to give you peace so you could let it rest. And now something very gentle is happening. God is restoring trust, not necessarily trust in people yet, but trust in life. Trust that good things can happen without hidden pain attached. Trust that love can arrive without taking something away from you. You may notice that the idea of love feels less heavy now, less complicated, less like something you have to brace for. That is healing. God is teaching you that love does not need to hurt to be meaningful. Pain is not proof of depth. Sometimes pain is simply a sign that timing and readiness were not aligned. The angels say your heart has grown wiser, not harder, and that distinction matters. Hard hearts repel love. Wise hearts recognize it. You are not closing yourself off to love. You are learning how to recognize it without losing peace. There may be moments when you catch yourself smiling softly without a clear reason, or feeling calm in situations that once triggered you. Those are signs that your nervous system is learning safety again. God is restoring safety. The angels say safety in the heart is one of the greatest gifts God gives before he brings new connections, because unsafe hearts cling, safe hearts choose. You are becoming someone who chooses peace, chooses honesty, chooses alignment over attachment. This does not mean you will never feel sadness again. It means sadness will no longer control you. You may still think about your soulmate from time to time. That is human, but the thoughts will feel lighter, more neutral, less charged. That neutrality is freedom. God is reminding you that you are not required to erase people from your heart to move forward. You are only required to release the hold they have on your future. The angels say this release has already begun. You may also find that your prayers change tone, less pleading, less bargaining, more trust, more surrender. That is growth. God delights in prayers that say, I trust you with what comes next. And what comes next does not require you to rush or search. It will come to you at the right time, in the right way, with clarity instead of confusion. The angels say this final message has strengthened your ability to let go with love instead of resentment. That ability will protect you in the future. It will keep your heart soft without making you vulnerable to harm. You are learning how to love wisely. God wants you to know that he does not waste love. Every ounce of love you gave has shaped you into someone more compassionate, more discerning, and more grounded. You are not starting over, you are continuing forward, carrying wisdom instead of wounds. There may be a quiet excitement growing in you now, not tied to anyone specific, just a sense that something good can happen. That sense is hope returning without pressure. Hope that does not demand a timeline. Hope that does not attach to a face. Hope that trusts God more than outcomes. That is healthy hope. The angels say this moment marks the end of emotional striving. You no longer need to figure things out. You no longer need to hold space for uncertainty. God has taken that from you. You may feel tired, but it is a peaceful tiredness, the kind that comes after emotional release. Rest if you need to. Let your body catch up to what your spirit has released. God is restoring rest to you. You may also notice that your self-talk changes, less self-criticism, less questioning your worth, more gentleness toward yourself. That is a sign that you are integrating this healing. The angels say you are stepping into a season where your heart is not guarded by fear, but guided by wisdom. You are allowed to take your time now. There is no rush to define what this means or what happens next. Healing unfolds naturally when it is not forced. God is not asking you to be strong anymore. He is inviting you to be at peace. And peace does not require effort. It requires trust. As you sit with this, remember this truth. You did not lose your soulmate. you gained clarity, and clarity is a gift that opens the door to what is truly meant for you. God is not finished writing your story. He has simply closed a chapter with compassion. Stay here as long as you need. Breathe, rest, let your heart settle. You are safe. You are seen. You are being guided. And God is still with you. Beloved, remain in this stillness. Let it be okay that nothing needs to happen right now. God is not asking you to respond, decide, or act. He is simply allowing your heart to come back into alignment with peace, and peace is where healing completes its work. The angels say something very gentle is happening now. Your heart is no longer searching for resolution. It has found rest. When a heart stops searching, it means it finally feels safe. Safe in God, safe in truth, safe in knowing that nothing essential was lost. You may notice that your emotions are quieter than they were moments ago. Not empty, not numb, just calm. This calm is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of acceptance. Acceptance that what was mattered. Acceptance that what ended, ended for a reason. Acceptance that what is ahead does not need to be forced. God wants you to understand this deeply. Acceptance is not resignation. It is surrender, and surrender is strength. The angels say your soulmate's final message has settled something that words could never fully express. It has resolved an emotional echo that followed you longer than you realized. Sometimes our hearts keep listening long after the conversation ends. God has now quieted that echo. You are not forgetting them. You are releasing the need for them to explain themselves. And that release is freedom. There may be a moment now where you realize how much energy you spent trying to understand what happened, replaying, interpreting, hopping, questioning. That energy is returning to you, and you will feel the difference in the days ahead. God is restoring emotional energy to you. The angels say that after this moment, you may feel more present in your life, more attentive to small joys, more connected to your body, more grounded in the now. That is what happens when the heart is no longer divided between past and future. You are fully here now. God is reminding you that being fully present is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. It allows life to meet you without resistance. You may also notice that you feel less pressure to figure out your love life, less urgency to label or define, less anxiety about timelines. That is because your worth is no longer tied to unanswered questions. God has untied that knot. The angels say this release is preparing you for discernment that comes without anxiety. You will recognize alignment without having to analyze it. You will recognize peace without needing reassurance. Your heart is becoming a place of clarity. There may be moments when you remember your soulmate with tenderness instead of pain. Tenderness is not attachment. It is honor. It is acknowledging that something once held meaning without needing it to hold your future. God honors that kind of remembrance. The angels say you are learning how to love without possession, how to care without clinging, how to remember without reliving. These are signs of emotional maturity and spiritual growth. You have grown. God has been patient with your process. He did not rush you through grief. He did not shame your emotions. He stayed with you through every stage, and now He is staying with you through release. You may feel a subtle sense of gratitude toward yourself, gratitude for surviving, gratitude for choosing healing, gratitude for not closing your heart permanently. That gratitude is well-deserved. The angels say your heart is stronger than you think, not because it endured pain, but because it remained open to God through it. You did not harden, you healed. There is also something God wants you to hear clearly now. You do not need to prepare yourself for disappointment anymore. That habit was learned in a season of uncertainty. You are stepping into a season of clarity. Preparing for disappointment protected you then. It will limit you now. God is gently asking you to release that reflex. The angels say this does not mean ignoring wisdom. It means no longer expecting loss as the default outcome. You are allowed to expect peace. You are allowed to expect honesty. You are allowed to expect alignment. Those expectations are not naive. They are grounded in the growth God has already done in you. You may feel moments of anticipation arise in the future, not anxious anticipation, but quiet curiosity. Curiosity about what God will do next. Curiosity about how life might surprise you gently. That curiosity is healthy. The angels say you are entering a season where things will feel simpler emotionally. Not because life becomes easy, but because your heart is no longer carrying unnecessary weight. You will still feel, you will still care, but you will not feel trapped in old loops. God has broken the loop. You may also notice that your dreams change, that your sleep deepens, that your body feels more relaxed. Emotional release often shows up physically after the spirit has let go. Let your body rest, it is catching up to your healing. The angels say this is a moment of integration. Everything you've learned, everything you've felt, everything you've released, it is settling into wisdom. Wisdom that will guide you forward quietly, without drama. God is not asking you to make sense of everything that happened. He is asking you to trust that it served its purpose. And that purpose was not to break you. It was to awaken you. To awaken your capacity for depth. To awaken your discernment. To awaken your reliance on Him. And now that awakening has done its work, you are allowed to move forward without carrying explanations. You are allowed to smile again without guilt. You are allowed to be hopeful without fear. God is not watching you cautiously now. He is walking with you confidently. The angels say your heart has passed through a threshold. You are no longer the person who is waiting for something unresolved. You are someone who has resolved it within. That is powerful. There may be moments when you feel quiet joy rise up unexpectedly, not tied to any thought, not triggered by any memory, just joy. That joy is not random. It is the fruit of release. God is restoring joy to you gently. You do not need to rush into the next chapter. You do not need to search for it. When God turns the page, you will feel it. For now, rest in this completion. Let the tears stop when they are ready. Let the silence be full, not empty. Let your heart breathe. You are not alone. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are healed, healing, and held. And God is still right here with you. Beloved, stay right here. Let this moment finish its work gently. God is not asking anything from you now, no understanding, no response, no strength. He is simply allowing peace to settle where tension once lived. The angels say there is a sacred quiet forming inside you. This quiet is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise. When the soul no longer needs answers, it rests. And rest is a sign that trust has taken root again. You may notice that the emotional weight you carried for so long is no longer pressing on your chest. It may feel unfamiliar, almost like something is missing, but what's missing is pain. What's missing is waiting. What's missing is the ache of unfinished emotion. That space is not loss, it is freedom. God wants you to know that closure does not mean something was insignificant. It means it has been completed. Some stories end not because they failed, but because they fulfilled their purpose. And that purpose was to awaken you to your worth, your depth, and your capacity to love without losing yourself. The angels say this final message from your soulmate has now fully landed. There is nothing more you need to hear, nothing more you need to process, nothing more you need to hold. Your heart has received what it was waiting for. You may feel a sense of calm certainty rising now, a quiet knowing that you can move forward without looking back, not because you don't care, but because you finally trust God with what was. God is reminding you that emotional peace is not indifference, it is alignment. It is your heart and spirit agreeing that it is safe to release. You might notice that your thoughts about the future feel lighter, less burdened by fear, less shaped by past outcomes. That is because your heart is no longer protecting itself from something that has already been healed. The angels say this moment marks the end of emotional rehearsal. You no longer need to prepare for conversations that will never happen. You no longer need to imagine explanations that were never given. God has filled that gap. You may feel gratitude now, not necessarily toward the situation, but toward yourself. Gratitude for staying soft. Gratitude for choosing growth over bitterness. Gratitude for trusting God even when it hurt. That gratitude is powerful. It seals healing. God is gently restoring your sense of safety in connection, not forcing you into something new, but reminding you that love does not always end in loss. Sometimes it ends in wisdom. The angels say wisdom is now getting your heart more than fear ever did. Wisdom doesn't rush. Wisdom doesn't cling. Wisdom knows when to stay and when to release. You have learned that wisdom. You may feel moments of quiet joy ahead, simple joy, not overwhelming happiness, joy that shows up in ordinary moments. That joy is not accidental. It is the fruit of a heart that is no longer divided. God is restoring wholeness to you. There is nothing you need to do with this moment except honor it. Let it be real. Let it be enough. Let it mark a turning point you don't have to announce to anyone else. The angels say you are stepping into a season where your heart will no longer carry echoes from the past. When someone speaks to you now, you will hear them clearly, not through old wounds. That clarity will protect you. God wants you to know that He has been incredibly close to you through all of this. Every tear you shed, He counted. Every silent prayer He heard. Every moment you felt alone, He was nearer than you felt. And now He is walking you forward with peace, not pressure. You are not expected to rush into anything new. You are allowed to enjoy this calm. Healing is not a bridge you run across. It is a ground you stand on until you are steady. The angels say steadiness has returned to you. If emotions rise again later, let them pass through. Healing is layered, not linear, but each time the wave will be softer, shorter, lighter. God has broken the hold this story once had on you. You are free to live fully in the present now. Free to love without fear. Free to trust without anxiety. Free to hope without attachment. That freedom is a gift. Remain gentle with yourself in the days ahead. Your heart has done deep work. Rest when you need to. Smile when you feel it. Cry if another tear comes, but know it will not last long. God has finished what He needed to finish here. You are not missing anything. You are not waiting anymore. You are not incomplete. You are whole. You are safe. You are held. And God is still with you, now and in everything that comes next. Beloved, let this final portion rest gently on your heart. There is no urgency in God's voice right now. What He is doing in you is not dramatic, it is deep, and depth always moves quietly. The angels say you have crossed a threshold you didn't even realize you were approaching. A place where your heart no longer clings to what was, but honors it and releases it at the same time. That balance is rare, and it is evidence of healing that is real, not forced. You may notice now that you are no longer waiting for a sign, a message, or an explanation, not because you stopped caring, but because your spirit has received what it needed. When the soul is satisfied, the mind stops searching. God wants you to hear this clearly. You did not miss out on anything that was meant to stay. Nothing that truly belonged in your future passed you by. If it left, it did so because its purpose in your life was complete. The angels say this final message from your soulmate did not come to reopen emotion, it came to settle it, to confirm what your heart always sensed but never had words for. And now that confirmation has arrived, your heart can finally rest. You may feel moments of reflection, but they no longer pull you backward. They feel neutral, even gentle. That neutrality is freedom. It means memory has lost its grip. God is reminding you that you do not need to carry the weight of understanding other people's choices. You only need to walk in peace with the truth God has given you. There is a new steadiness forming in you, a steadiness that does not depend on circumstances, a steadiness that comes from knowing God has your heart, your future, and your timing firmly in His hands. The angels say you are now emotionally available to life again, not desperate, not guarded, simply open. And openness grounded in wisdom is one of the most powerful states a person can be in. You are no longer bracing for disappointment. You are no longer rehearsing loss. You are no longer protecting yourself from joy. God has restored your ability to receive without fear. You may notice that relationships around you feel different now. Conversations feel lighter. Interactions feel less draining. That is because your heart is no longer carrying unresolved emotion into every space. The angels say this is what happens when emotional baggage is set down. Life becomes easier to hold. God wants you to understand that what you experienced was not a detour, it was a necessary passage, and now that passage has ended. Ahead of you is not chaos. Ahead of you is not confusion. Ahead of you is alignment. You may not see it yet, but you will feel it. God is preparing you for connections that do not require you to explain your worth, defend your feelings, or wait for clarity. Those connections will feel natural, safe, honest. And when they come, you will recognize them not by intensity, but by peace. The angels say you are entering a season where love does not feel like work, where affection does not come with anxiety, where commitment does not feel like a question mark. But before that season could begin, your heart needed closure without bitterness, and God has given you that. You may feel gratitude rising now, not loud gratitude, but quiet appreciation. Appreciation for how far you've come. Appreciation for the strength you didn't know you had. Appreciation for the fact that you are still soft after everything you endured. That softness is sacred. God did not harden your heart, He healed it. And because of that, you will be able to love again without losing yourself. The angels say there is no rush to define what comes next. Healing seasons do not require immediate transitions. Sometimes God gives us rest before He gives us new direction. Rest here for a moment. Let your breathing slow. Let your shoulders relax. Let your heart feel safe again. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lacking. You are exactly where you need to be. God is reminding you that He has been faithful to you through every stage of this journey. When you were confused, He guided you. When you were hurting, He comforted you. When you were ready to release, He held you. And He is still holding you now. The angels say this message has now fully completed its purpose. Nothing more needs to be said. Nothing more needs to be processed. Your heart knows. From this point forward, allow yourself to live without carrying this story any longer. You are allowed to smile freely. You are allowed to plan without fear. You are allowed to hope without attachment. God is with you in what comes next. If this message has brought peace to your heart, I want to invite you to like this video. That simple action helps this message reach others who may be silently carrying similar emotions. Please share this video with your friends and family. There is someone close to you who may need this word right now, even if they haven't said it out loud. Your share could be the confirmation they've been praying for. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you'll be notified when we post another video like this. More messages of comfort, clarity, and spiritual encouragement are coming, and we would love to continue this journey with you. And for those of you who truly love what we do here and feel led to support this work, you can give a super thanks. Your support is a beautiful token of appreciation and helps us continue sharing these messages with people around the world. Every contribution is received with gratitude and prayer. Before you go, I want you to declare one final thing in the comments. Write, "I am free and at peace." Let that be your closing declaration. Thank you for staying with this message. Thank you for trusting God with your heart. Thank you for allowing yourself to heal. Come back for more videos like this. Stay connected. Stay encouraged. And remember, you are deeply loved, divinely guided, and never alone.